Good morning and welcome to the Crafty Canary for Thoughts on Thursday. And today I'm continuing my series on the fact that I went silver. So today we're going to talk about how I let my gray grow out, how I let the color grow out. And I told you in my last video that I had brown, almost black hair. So I want to show you a few pictures of my original hair color before I started coloring. So here's a few pictures in my high school, college days before I started coloring, just to let you see how dark it was, and that it was, you know, a little more nuanced than just plain one color, which natural color usually is. It has a little bit more highlights, it has a little bit more dynamics to it than usually your boxed color or even your color from a salon can give you. And I had some red highlights because we have a lot of red hair in our family. And then when I started coloring it, for the most part, it was pretty solid brown. Sometimes I might get highlighted, but that cost a little more, so it was pretty, you know, just one tone. Unless I did have a stylist once who was really good at, she would leave some of it out so that some of the strands that had kind of faded wouldn't get colored, so it would look like I had my hair highlighted even when I didn't, and she did really good. But here's a picture of a good coloring from, you know, maybe my 20s or 30s, might have even been early in my 40s, but just so you see you know, kind of how it looked both before I started coloring and then when I was coloring. And then I also told you that as I got older and I was coloring it, I began to notice that just the dark hair against my aging skin didn't really look that good. And so here's a picture of me right before I started or I stopped coloring, just so you can kind of get an idea of what I was looking at, what I was seeing and not liking. And I could have, like I said, I could have had highlights. I could have maybe gone with a lighter color. The highlights would have cost more, but just the time and the money and the chemicals on my head were really what bothered me. So that's really why I decided to stop coloring. And the reason that I stopped coloring instead of some other options. Now there's other options that if that's the way you choose to do it, that is totally fine. So for example, some of my friends will get their hair highlighted so that as that silver grows out, it's not as noticeable. And they end up almost with sort of a blonde color as the silver is growing out. And if that's what you choose to do, that's totally fine. I really, I don't like that kind of yellowy blonde color that gray hair looks when it is colored blonde or colored really light brown. So just for me, that is not what I want to do. And again, I didn't want to put the chemicals on my head. So that was really a lot of why I made the choice just to let it grow out rather than to continue to color with highlights for a while. And again, the money and the time. By stopping completely, I was I was going ahead into my new life of not coloring. Now, that's not to say that it does not have its drawbacks. It definitely has its drawbacks. It was really, I think, emotionally and for my self-esteem, the hard way to do it, because I did not like that. Like I told you last time, I did not like that skunk stripe. And as it grew out, of course, that skunk stripe just gets bigger and bigger, and you have, you know, a white part and really dark ends, which was difficult. But I'll show you some pictures, and I can't believe I'm showing some of these on the internet because they're really embarrassing. But I'll show you some pictures as I went through the process to kind of show you what I did. Now, I will say that my stylist, who I went to for a really long time and I really love, and I actually have gone back to him, did not want to let me do it. He wanted to either have me transition with, you know, the lighter highlights and doing it that way, or not do it at all. And because I trusted him so much and because I love him so much, I knew he would convince me. But I was so determined to do it this way and to do it that I didn't want him to talk me out of it. So for this process, I changed stylists and went to somebody else because I knew that I would let him talk me out of it, and I didn't want to. And it's funny because he really loves my color. He's gone a lot more natural. He's he uses a lot more natural products. He doesn't like the coloring quite as much as he used to, even though that's his specialty, and he's really great at it. And I love him so much. But he's really great at color. But he's gone a much more natural route, and he really does like my silver hair. But anyway, you might have to switch stylists, but find somebody who's willing to do what you want to do. And again, this is all personal preference. What's good for you, what's good for your hair, what's good for your self-esteem, what you like. Do that. Don't do what everybody else is trying to convince you to do. And I'm not trying to convince you to do anything. I'm just sharing my story to give you some ideas, to give you just what I did and why I did it, so that you can make your own decision about what you want to do and how you want to do it. So I showed you some pictures of what my hair looked like naturally before it turned gray, what my hair looked like while I was coloring it, and what I looked like that really was not, right before I decided to stop coloring, that I didn't like. So let me show you my last coloring. Now my niece, I told you this in the other video too, my niece got married on June 29th, 2019. I think I have that date right. And I didn't want to be, having the skunk stripe during her wedding. I didn't think that would be very nice in the pictures. So I had my last, I went to the salon and had my hair colored for the last time a few days before that. So probably somewhere around June 26th, June 27th, 2019. And here is what it looked like right after the salon. And looking back on those, I don't like it. He did a great job. The style is pretty. I like that, but I just don't like the darkness up against my skin. And then here's some pictures from the wedding that weekend. I don't like it. I don't like it. So anyway, I'm not going to like a lot of these pictures in here as I go through this process either. So you'll hear me say that a lot. But I do like my silver hair much better than I like the way it looked right after that last color. So now that you've seen the last hoorah, let's see it as it grows out. So here's a picture in late July. So that was June of 2018. So here's a picture from late July, and you can see the color beginning to grow out. You can see a little bit of silver on my part. Not a whole lot. I'm still a little happy here in this picture. So it's not too bad. That's late July. So I took a picture the next month. So here is August, and as you'll see, I have it in a ponytail. I kind of have it half up at the top and then in a pony, and I'll show you this in just a second. But you can begin to see the gray around the edges. You can begin to see that it's grown out a little bit more. It grows pretty fast. And it looks more like it grows fast when you're growing color out than when you want to grow a short style out. I don't know why it works out that way. It just does. I'm sure it's just our minds and our imagination. But so it seemed to me to grow really fast and to get, a lot of white on the roots really, really fast. So here's a picture of the back of that where I have it pulled up. And you can see in the mirror there that there's a chunk that looks like it's really white. And I even had, when my nieces were little, I remember swimming, and it must have been, I probably needed to get my hair colored, and we were swimming and my hair parted in the back, and they could see that white spot that you can see right there, and they thought I had a bald spot. And so that's another negative to, having dark color on your hair and then growing it out. The white kind of makes it look like you have a bald spot, but I did not have a bald spot. It was just that big section right there that was really, really white, where a lot of it, the hair around it was still dark, even the natural hair. So then as it grew out, here is the next month. Here's October, and this is one of those that I'm so embarrassed that I'm showing you on the internet, my picture. But this is the top, from the top in October, and look how much is already grown out, and look how much silver I had at that point. And remember, this is 2019. That's 5 years ago? It's 2024 right now. So that was 5 years ago. When I was in 2019, I was 47. So I was 47 years old and had this much white in my hair. And here is a picture that same day, so this October, but actually with it styled and what it was looking like as I was going about in the world. Of course, I would never have it parted and showing the world the top of my head like in that last picture, but this is, so it's really beginning to grow out and you're beginning to really see the silver. Now I did learn some tricks. You can take your part, and where's my part? It's right here. So you can take your part and do it kind of in a zigzag, you know, take your comb and kind of do it zigzag, and that way it doesn't look quite so stark, and you sort of mix in some of the brown with that silver part, and it doesn't look quite so bad from, you know, especially from a distance. So those, I learned a few tricks. You know, I could have put that temporary, I don't know if you ever have used this before, you know, when you need to color and your part is just a little bit growing out, they have makeup, they have sprays, they have all kind of root cover up that you can use. So I could have done that for a while. I chose not to. You know, I'm pretty short, so if my husband were to rest his head on, or his chin on the top of my head, he would come away with makeup on his chin, and that would have been totally embarrassing. But anyway, so that's an option too, as you're trying to grow that out and hide that skunk stripe. You can use some sort of cover up that they make in the store, either sprays, or there's like mascara wands, or there's sticks that you can rub on, all kind of things, and believe me, I've used them in the past. Okay, so here is where I braided it, or actually I had my niece braid it. I'm not very good at braiding, so if she was ever over, she would braid it for me, and that sort of mixes it in. But this was in November of 2019, and you can kind of see a little bit of the silver shining through. And here's another picture in November with it unbraided and brushed out, all the curl brushed out, and again, kind of from showing you the top of my head. This is another one of those embarrassing ones I can't believe I'm showing, but this was right before I went to get it cut. And you're gonna see in a minute the drastic change that I did there. So here is a picture of right before I went to get it cut, just sort of from the front with it brushed out. I never would have gone out like this. I do not like my curls brushed out. Now if I've straightened them, I'm fine, but if it's frizzy and brushed out, I do not like that. And it just had so much silver in it. At that time I was wearing it up most of the time. So here's a picture right before I went to get it cut with it in a ponytail from the side, and you can just see how much silver there is already grown out. And so that was November. So if my last coloring was at the end of June, we've got July, August, September, October, and it was late November. I think it was right before Thanksgiving. So about 5 months of growth. So that was hard. It was hard. And I have to say, there are moments when I wanted to give up and I wanted to just go back to coloring it. And I could have, if I had decided I'm not going to do this, I don't like it. I could do it right now if I wanted to. I could go color my hair. So you have options. Don't think that just because you start this process, you're, you know, in it forever. And I have friends, and I have seen people who have started it and then they go back and color, and they start it again and they go back and color. And one particular friend I'm thinking of, she started it 3 or 4 times, and finally she did the lighter highlights, and now she's just pretty much blonde. And I imagine she'll probably stay blonde for a long time, for a while. Okay, so what I decided to do that November was to cut it off. And this is probably the shortest hairstyle I have ever had. So here is a picture of me right in the car right after I got it cut. I know with the darkness behind me, it's a little hard to see, but yeah, I wasn't real happy. I didn't like it. I was still determined to keep going, but I didn't like it, you know, and it didn't look as bad as long brown hair with the silver roots, but it still didn't look great. So I was not super happy, but I'm still plugging away. So let's look at this one in December. I'm getting a little bit happier. I'm not quite as bummed with it. And I think this might have been after another cut. I think at that point I was getting it cut pretty regularly, maybe once a month, at least every 6 weeks, just so that I could get that color, that fake color off, and see really how much I had and what it was going to look like. So that was December. And then this next picture is late January of 2020. So you can see from December to January how much actually grew out. With it being that short and then getting it cut off pretty quickly, you can see how much really grew off or grew out and was cut off. So I'm beginning to really now be almost completely silver haired. And I do, even now, I still have some brown in there. Not a lot. And I had more back in 2020 than I do now because it's 4 years later. But I'm really beginning to just have silver hair with a little bit of pepper, lots of salt and a little bit of pepper. So here, this next one is after another cut, and it is, I'm not sure what time of year that was. I think that might have also been January. No, that was February. That was February. And so I think I was getting it cut, so November, I think I got it cut December, January, February. And then, of course, and remember what year this is, 2020, what happened? We all got stuck at home the next month. So I didn't get it cut the next month or for quite a few months. Actually, I think that was probably my last cut for a long time. Well, it was a lot of us, our last cut for a long time because we were stuck inside. So then I'm glad it was at that point because all the color, all the dye was pretty much cut off of it. So it was able to grow out through the shutdown with, not a lot of dye on the end. So here's a picture of Easter 2020. So you can tell it's grown out a little bit. And beginning to really look silver. And this next picture, so we'll skip ahead a little bit. This next picture is October 2020. So you can see that it's beginning to grow out. You can see, my natural curl is kind of showing again. I will say one thing, having it that short the way it was, 2019, November, December, 2020, January, and February, it was very easy. I did not like the way it looked. I don't like short hair on myself, and I actually think that made me look older than having it silver and long. But it was so easy. It was so easy. It was so nice, especially with my natural curl. I really could just dry it a little bit and go. It was so nice. But then, okay, so we'll go back to continuing to grow it out. So begin to have to do a little more as it grows out. But that picture from October of 2020, now skip to February of 21, and you can see that I'm beginning to straighten it, and it's beginning to grow out, beginning to look a lot more like I want it to look. It's still shorter than I wanted it to look, but still beginning to like it. And then this last picture is my second YouTube video. So the first one was either that day or the day before, so it looked pretty much like that. And I'm beginning to really like it. It's growing out, and that was in March of 2021. And so you can kind of see how it grows out, how it grows through my YouTube channel, as you see my different videos through time. If you put it, if you go to my Tips on Tuesday playlist and you put it oldest to newest, you can kind of see how my hair has progressed, and when I'm wearing it straight and when I'm wearing it curly. And the interesting thing too is I have naturally curly hair, and it was really curly, and I wore it curly almost 100% of the time in my youth, in my teens and 20s. And then when I had my son at 33, my hair stopped really curling nicely. It still had wave, it still had the natural curl, but it seemed to me just to be kind of blah and frizzy and not the ringlets that it used to have. And now as I'm getting older, and probably has to do with hormones, and maybe even has to do with the fact that I'm not coloring anymore. Maybe that has a little bit to do with it. It's curling again, and I'm wearing it curly again just for ease because of time, because I can really just do that very quickly and let it dry mostly naturally and don't have to spend as much time on it when I wear it curly. I prefer it straight. That's, we always prefer what we don't have usually, but anyway, but I do wear it mostly now curly, just for time and ease. So that is my story. That is how I went about changing from dyeing my hair to all natural silver hair. And I hope that it helps you in some way. I hope it inspires you. If you want to let your color grow out, if you want to do it another way, that's great too. But stay tuned because I'm going to do a couple more videos. I'm going to do another one next time on kind of how people reacted to it and how that made me feel. And then I'm also going to do one on how I care for it. And I'm sure there's lots of experts on hair and on silver hair out there who could give you more and better tips than I can. But I'm just going to let you know how I care for mine, some things that I've learned from stylists, from the internet, just from my own experience. So stay tuned for those videos, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Please be sure to subscribe and like this video and comment if you'd like to. Please, again, keep them positive. And if you have anything constructive to say, that's okay, but let's just be nice. Thanks so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.